Pictures with creepy backstories. Hotel manager pouring acid into pool because he only wanted white people to use it. Youngest mother ever recorded. At only 5 years old, she had a rare condition called precocious puberty. The father was never found. Seconds after this photo was taken, both boys were struck by lightning. This was the last photo taken of a volcanologist who moments later was killed by a volcanic eruption. The night this photo was taken of a mum and two sons, the son on the left paid to friends to kill her and his brother.
Two words, buckle up. 29-year-old Christine Chubbuck did something on live television that traumatized an entire community. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. Christine was hired at a news station called WXLT-TX, and she was later given her own show called Suncoast Digest, where she talked about recent crimes. A little bit about her: she was severely depressed and tried to unalive herself in 1970, but failed. She even made several comments on air about taking her own life, and her news partner just awkwardly moved on. On the morning of July 15th, 1974, she confused her coworkers by saying that she had to open up for Suncoast Digest, which she normally did not do.
The most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide.
She then drew a weapon, unalived herself, and the broadcast rapidly went black.
So I was gone for a few days, and while I was gone for those few days, I just realized that Lil Tay died.
Lil Tay's loved ones are mourning the loss of an internet sensation. The teen rapper, whose real name is Claire Hope and who rose to fame online in 2018.
So, rest in peace to Lil Tay. Moment of silence. Or so we thought. So, a few days ago, a post was uploaded to Lil Tay's official Instagram page, sharing the tragic passing of Lil Tay. It was said that the 14-year-old was in a car accident with her brother, and that the crash was still being under investigation. Many fans mourned her death and even shared posts, sharing their condolences to Lil Tay's family. Now, although this was devastating news, this whole thing was nothing but a hoax. Yes, Lil Tay fell victim to the fake death hoax. It was revealed that Lil Tay's Instagram account was hacked, and of course posted the so-called devastating news. The 14-year-old is still alive along with her brother, safe and sound, and has publicly stated that she is still alive. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like and follow for more.
This photo is a picture of a woman who changed television forever. So Christine Chubbuck, she was a news anchor at this news station called WWSB. She was so good at her job, she eventually ended up hosting her own show. It was weird because leading up to the day of the event that I'm speaking of, she had volunteered to do a piece about sewer slide to her producers. And so while doing research, she ended up talking to this cop, and she was asking him like, hey, what is the most common ways people do this? How do they go about it? Took it as, okay, she's doing research to write an article and do a whole segment about it, right? Co-workers remembered her joking with one of them saying, wouldn't it be crazy if I blew myself away on live television? Well, after reading about 8 minutes of headlines, she started talking about this shooting that happened at a local restaurant the night before. Once she finished it, she looked directly in the camera and she said, in keeping with WXLT practice of presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first in live color, exclusive coverage of an attempted urban legend. Don't look under the bed is one of the scariest urban legends I've ever heard, and it's actually based on a true story. The urban legend goes that this family was traveling, right? We're just in the middle of a small little town, and they stopped at a hotel because they needed a place to sleep for the night, right? Get to the room, and they ended up staying for like 2 or 3 days. They lay down to go to bed, and they just noticed that they have this terrible smell. Figure out where it's coming from. Next morning, they go down to the office. They say, we need room service. The room service comes up. They try to figure it out. They're like, look, gotta deal with it, right? So they deal with it for the next day or two. The day that they were supposed to leave, wife loses like her earring or something, right? So she's looking everywhere for it, and they picked up the bed and they looked, and with awe was one of the scariest things that I've ever heard. Cut out in the box spring, and right there in the middle was a decomposing body. So this is the urban legend. But this is based on a true story. There was a family in Phoenix, Arizona, and they stopped at this hotel. When they looked in the mattress, they saw this older guy. He was like in his 60s or 70s, and it's just so scary to me that that's real.
Have you heard of Hannah Landon? Hannah was dating Michael Fontenelle, who had a daughter with a previous woman by the name of Bella. On April 26, 2023, Michael woke up and realized that Hannah and his daughter Bella were missing. Police in New Orleans immediately began searching his home. Eventually, police were led to Bella's mother's home, where they found a 10-gallon bucket sitting on the porch. Inside of that 10-gallon bucket was Bella's body. Bella's mother lived in the same neighborhood that Michael lived in. Police found surveillance footage of Hannah pulling a wagon down the street with the same 10-gallon bucket inside of it. A few hours later, Hannah arrived to a police station and stated that she needed help. She was then admitted to a hospital. After being released from the hospital, Hannah was immediately booked on charges of first-degree murder and obstruction of justice. Hannah and Bella's mother had never gotten along. In 2020, there was a restraining order taken out. In 2021, Hannah and Bella's mother had gotten into a fight at a swim meet, and a month later had also gotten into a fight at a soccer game. Bella was beaten and strangled before being placed in the bucket, and Hannah's trial is still upcoming. Why do you think Hannah would do this?
Okay, so remember that story of the adult woman posing as a child to murder her adoptive family? Well, Investigation Discovery just made a documentary about the whole event, and it is shocking. I think the biggest takeaway is that Natalia wasn't some evil mastermind. She was being severely abused by the Barnett family. And there's one scene in the documentary that just really stands out to me. So the Barnetts had Natalia aged up 14 years to 22 years old so they could put her in this apartment that was definitely not ADA compliant. And the mom, Christine, would drive her Cadillac up to this low-income apartment, drop off the groceries that she bought for her, and would make Natalia carry them inside. She wouldn't even get out of the car to help. So this video was taken by Michael, the dad, and one day he comes into the apartment and sees that Natalia has donuts. And he starts losing his mind. He's like, who brought you these donuts? We didn't buy you donuts. You always lie to us. You never tell us the truth. Tell me who got you these donuts right now. And while she's getting yelled at, she looks terrified, as if disobeying the Barnetts was the worst thing she could do. Even though at this point they're saying she's 22 years old and living on her own, just leave her be. It turns out that Michael knew that Child Protective Services had been called to Natalia's apartment because the neighbors noticed that she was not being taken care of. But why are you worried about CPS, Michael, if you're not doing anything wrong and she's not a child? Another really sad takeaway from the documentary is that Michael's child, Jacob, who was this wonderkind who got his PhD at 14 years old, was so traumatized by the whole event of his parents neglecting and abusing Natalia that he now just lives in his dad's basement and is not really putting all of his genius to use. I could go on for much longer about this documentary, but let me know if you watched it and what you thought.
I knew a week before she died I was going to kill her. And she went out to a party, she got soused, she came home, went to sleep. I was woken up by that, came out. I walked up to her bed. She's laying there reading a paperback. As many thousands of nights before. And she said, oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now. Shit. I looked at her, I said, no. I said, good night. And I knew I was going to kill her. No. And I was so cold, so hard. And that's the first time in 10 years I've looked at it that way. That intensely, that honestly. It hurts. Because I'm not a lizard. I'm not from under a rock. I came out from vagina. See? Came out of my mother. And in a rage, I went right back in. For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because of you. My murderous son. It's one of our arguments. I cut off her head, and I humiliated her corpse. So there. 6 young woman dead because of the way she raises her son and the way her son is raised, the way he grows up. And what's her closing words? I suppose you want to sit up all night and talk. God, I wish I had.
Charles Manson. Little backstory, he had a rough upbringing. When his mom had him, she was 16 years old. Apparently, she was at a bar one day, and the bartender was like, wow, what I would do to have like such a beautiful baby like that. Apparently, his mom was like, give me a beer and you can have the baby. Apparently, the bartender gave her a beer, she drank it, and gave her the baby. Then apparently it took like 2 weeks, and his uncle is the one that went and found the bartender and got him back. He did commit a lot of crimes growing up, basically throughout his entire life, that the list is insane, dude. Things I never even knew he did. Like, it went from robbery to running an underground casino. It all kind of got a little serious when he was 18 and got caught sexually assaulting a boy at knife point. Then went to jail and then sexually assaulted 3 more men in jail. He got out, got married, then got a divorce a year later, and then started seeing a 16-year-old. Eventually ended up getting married to a prostitute named Candy, and then they got a divorce when he got arrested again. He said he fell in love with Scientology and music. So in 1967, he was released from jail and he moved to San Francisco, and he joined this hippie group where they preached about like LSD and like being free and like leaving and stuff like that. And that's where Charles actually started forming his own cult. And a lot like Ted Bundy, where he was a very charismatic dude, like people were very fond of him. In this hippie group, he started getting females that like wanted to follow him basically, and then he moved them over to Swan Ranch in California. His community just kept getting bigger. He released a song with Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys, which I didn't know, and that really boosted him up in the society's eyes, and a lot of people started moving to this ranch, and they say it got upwards to like towards 100 people. And all of a sudden one day...
This is the disturbing case of the Slender Man stabbing. On the morning of the 31st of May 2014, a man on a bike ride in Wisconsin made a shocking discovery. A 12-year-old girl, Peyton Leutner, was lying on the grass covered in blood. The day prior, the young girl had been at a sleepover with some of her friends. She hadn't realised that the sleepover had been a trick to lure her into the woods to murder her. 2 years before what the media dubbed the Slender Man stabbing, Peyton had met her friend Morgan at school. The pair had become friends when Peyton noticed her sitting alone in the cafeteria and felt sorry for her. The two became close, and then they made another friend, Anissa Weir. Anissa, on the left here, was described as a cruel girl. She seemed really jealous of the friendship between Peyton and Morgan. As their friendship grew, Anissa and Morgan became obsessed with the internet meme Slender Man. Slender Man was a tall, faceless man with long arms who turned viral when people would Photoshop him into creepy images. The mythical man would prey on young children and lure them into the woods to kill people. Shockingly, around December 2013, Morgan and Anissa concocted a plan to kill someone in order to show their dedication to the fictional Slender Man. Their plan was to invite Peyton to Morgan's birthday to get her alone, and then lure her into the woods and kill her. Morgan actually described this as a flawless plan. As the girls started their walk to the woods, Morgan snuck a knife from her kitchen into her waistband. They then completely blindsided poor Peyton. Morgan jumped on top of her and started stabbing her. The two perpetrators then run off, claiming that they were going to go and get help. The young girl was left to struggle on her own and crawl towards the road to get help. When the cyclist discovered her, an ambulance arrived and nurses noted that she had 19 stab wounds. She had 6 hours of intensive surgery but miraculously survived. The girls were charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Now, the jury actually found Morgan not criminally responsible due to schizophrenia. She was sentenced to 40 years in a mental health institution. Anissa had apparently experienced shared psychotic disorder and was sentenced to 25 years in a mental health institution.
Is it possible to commit a brutal murder while sleepwalking? Well, according to Scott Falater and some sleep experts, it is. Hi Meg, I talk about true crime. Let's get into this insane case. This all takes place in January of 1997 in a suburban area in Arizona that had little to no crime. Stephanie and Greg, who are a married couple, were at home one night when they heard loud, strange noises coming from the neighbor's house. They thought that someone could maybe be breaking in, and they realized the noise was coming from the neighbor's backyard, so they peered over their fence. That's when they saw 41-year-old Yarm Falater face down next to the pool. Which was very strange, like why is she not on like a lawn chair at least? And Stephanie was like, oh my god, she's probably drank too much and she passed out or something. Let's just leave them be. But Greg had an eerie feeling about it all, so Stephanie went inside and he waited for a bit to make sure she was okay. That's when Yarm's husband, Scott, is seen walking outside. And as he's approaching Yarm, and Greg thought he was gonna help her, he's putting gloves on, which is a little strange. Greg then watched as Scott dragged Yarm and threw her into the pool. For a split second, he was like, oh my god, is he trying to wake her up because she's like drank too much and like she's passed out? That probably would have been better than what he did, because Greg then watched as Scott held her head down in the pool with a really calm demeanor. He was drowning Yarm. That's when Greg quickly went and called the police, and the police got there very fast. Despite them arriving super fast, by the time they got there, it was too late. They found Yarm lying in the pool, and the pool had turned pink. When they raised her body out of the water around her was a dark red color. Yarm had been stabbed 44 times and drowned to death. Police immediately were looking for Scott. They went into the house, guns a-blazing, and they were like, everybody make yourself known. That's when they see Scott Falater at the top of his staircase, seemingly half awake. And he says, what are you guys doing in my house? They then yell at him, who's in the house? And his response is, my wife and my 2 kids. They had 2 teenage kids at the time. So Scott is immediately arrested, but he has no blood on him. He's wearing pajamas, a white t-shirt, not a speck of blood. And the kids are woken up, and the police just tell them, like, look, your parents got into a fight. We're gonna have to take you somewhere. And the kid's like, that's weird. My parents never fight. And according to everybody in their life, family, friends, they never fought, ever. They had no problems. And Scott was extremely confused. Go to part 2, it's already up. It gets insane.
3 days ago, y'all told me to look up the toy box killer. The things that I have learned have literally kept me up at night. Like, I lie awake at night and think about the details of this case. And just in case you're new around here, I'm also very, very petty. So I'm going to share with you the things that I learned that are absolutely going to disturb you and keep you up at night. And I'm warning you now, and I'm sorry, but I'm petty like that. Before I tell you about this case, I'm going to tell you the 2 most disturbing facts that I found, and you have to buckle up for this. Also, I don't really know how to say it. I don't know how to make it funny, so I'm just going to say these things, and then I will tell you about this disgusting humans. Okay, so I'm going to give you the meat and potatoes as quickly as I can, and then I'm going to tell you the things that I have learned, like that are going to keep you awake at night, and I'm sorry. There's this guy, the toy box killer, right? David Parker's his name, David Ray Parker, down in New Mexico. He has a 22-foot long trailer that he actually lives in. Well, do you know that he also has a built-in torture room that he built, like, inside of it? It literally has like a gynecology table, a torture tools, all kinds of stuff. And you can just imagine what he does. He goes out, plays as a cop, and takes women in and captures them and holds them as SA slaves. And he tortures them. But here's the thing. He's not alone. He has a girlfriend that helps him do it. And now I'm about to tell you the 2 gross things that I learned. And then I'll have to like walk you through the rest. Like, I'll hold your hand. So him and his girlfriend were capturing people and they were holding them. And the first disturbing thing I found that you really don't find very easily is that on top of everything that David liked to do to his victims, which everything he liked to do, bestiality was one of his things. Like, he said that he would force the victims to let his dog have sex with them. He like built a thing, like a contraption so that could happen. Okay, gross. I told you. And there's probably gonna have to be a part 2 to this, so y'all let me know. But the next thing that kept me awake at night is that he would play this tape for his victims where he told them in 45 minutes the things that him and his girlfriend were going to do to them in depth, in detail. I listened to the entire thing. So yeah, look up the Toy Box Killer audio tape and prepare yourself. Listen to that if you can stomach any of it. It's extremely disturbing. It really is. And then I'm going to have to do a part 2 video where I give you some more meat and potatoes on this guy if you want me to continue, because this guy and the woman, like, I'm sorry.
This pedophile married her victim and eventually had children with him. This is the twisted story of Mary Kay Letourneau. So Mary Kay has a really interesting life story. Her father was a senator in California. Her brother was a counsel to George H.W. Bush. And yeah, her family was really politically plugged up, but Mary wanted to be a teacher. And eventually she started teaching at Shorewood Elementary. And it was at this elementary where she met 12-year-old Ville Fuilau. Keep in mind, at the time, Mary Kay was a 34-year-old teacher and Ville was only a 12-year-old. So at the time, keep in mind, Mary was married to a man named Steve. And before this affair with her student happened, she had fathered 4 children with her husband. So Mary was married with kids when she started this relationship with a 12-year-old. So after having Ville as a student in her class, Mary started this relationship that went from platonic to something more very quickly. And on June 18, 1996, the police found her in a parking lot with Ville. As a police officer approached the car that they were in, Mary tried to hop into the front seat and Ville played dead and acted like he was asleep in the back. And even though the police checked them for identification, Ville lied and said that he was over 18 years old and that he was a family friend of Mary's. Mary said that she had gotten into an argument with her husband and they were just talking, nothing had happened in the car. The police then called Ville's parents and his mom said that he should just go back with his teacher. And still, the police thought nothing out of all of this and they returned him back into her care so she could continue to assault him. But less than a year later, a relative of her husband's would contact the police and let them know that he had heard and seen some strange things going on with Mary Kay. She would be arrested, put on trial, and she was eventually convicted of 2 counts of child abuse. I can't say the word here, but yeah. So after her trial, she was sentenced to 6 months in jail. She was given 3 months suspended, so she really only had to serve 3 months, and she was then released. But just 2 weeks after she got out of jail for serving her time for the abuse of a minor, she was found in another car with Ville. And this time she had a passport, cash, all sorts of other documents, and it looked like she was going to flee the country with the minor. So before long she was back in court again, but this time she served over 7 years in prison. And it was while in prison while she gave birth to her second child with Ville. Yes, she had 2 children with the child that she was assaulting. In 2004, though, Mary Kay was released from prison. Ville actually petitioned to have the no contact order dropped, and the couple got married in 2005. And for the rest of their life, they led a allegedly happy life together. They had children together, and yeah, Mary Kay ended up dying in the year 2020. Now, I don't know how to feel about this entire story. It is just so strange. And I think that there definitely was a lot of brainwashing going on here. I mean, there's no way to excuse Mary Kay's behavior. She was 34 years old, initially assaulting a 12-year-old student of hers. But yeah, the 2 of them gave a number of interviews before Mary Kay passed away, and they said that they're really happy. He said that he totally forgave her for doing whatever she did to him, and that they're happy now. I don't know. I just don't know how to feel about this. It's such a weird story.
What the fuck? Is this thing on?
The road was more than asphalt and lines, it was a living memory, a haunting echo that called to Mike. As he pulled into the old gas station, rain pelting his windshield, he felt a shiver of recognition. Something was waiting for him here, something buried in time and hidden in shadows. The ghosts of the highway were about to reveal a mystery that would unravel his very existence. Mike, a weary trucker haunted by dreams of a child he never had, felt a strange pull as he saw the old gas station sign. Rain splattered on his windshield, a cold reminder of the road's loneliness. His hands trembled on the wheel, recognizing the gas station even though he'd never been there before. The door creaked ominously as he entered. The lights inside flickered, and a familiar tune hummed from the old radio, its sounds mingling with the smell of old oil. Behind the counter, an old attendant emerged, his eyes a mirror to the ancient past. "You've been here before, haven't you, son?" the attendant asked. Mike's heart skipped a beat. "What? How could you know?" "The road remembers," the attendant replied, a knowing smile on his face. Mike filled up his truck, the eerie silence broken only by the pitter-patter of the rain and the distant thunder. The old newspaper caught his eye. The headline screamed about a trucker gone missing at this very spot exactly 50 years ago. A chill ran down his spine. The shadow around this truck seemed to move, whispering secrets. The child's laughter from his dream echoed in his ears. Back in his cab, memories trickled in. Memories that weren't his. A photograph 50 years old, identical to his own face in a truck, appeared in his glove compartment. How could this be? It can't be. It's impossible, he whispered, dread washing over him. The night wore on, shadows persisted, whispers grew louder, and the ghost of the road wouldn't let him go. The laughter of a child, a song on the radio, the face of an old attendant, all were pieces of the puzzle he needed to solve. Memories continued to haunt him, memories of a life that he didn't remember living. The road was calling him back, but to what? The connection became clear as dawn approached. Mike was reliving a moment from his own past, a moment lost in time. The attendant, the child's laughter, the newspaper, they were all echoes of a destiny he couldn't escape. Gas station's facade faded, replaced by desecrate remains of a place abandoned long ago. The old signs swayed, creaking a farewell. Mike, forever changed, drove away. The road was alive with memories of ghosts, and it never forgets. Months later, another trucker pulled into the gas station. The old attendant emerged, eyes filled with the ancient knowledge. "You been here before, haven't you, son?" he asked. The young trucker found an old keychain on the ground inscribed with the name Mike. The road remembers, and it never lets go.
Mum, can you just pass my drink that's on the table, please? Thanks.
Stop it, Allie. Boys, in the house. I'm doing it. Wait. He's leaving. Hey, he's coming back. Nope, I'm coming. James, she doesn't want to talk to you.
Okay, wait. He's fine. He don't have nothing. He don't have no. He don't have. Don't do anything. He's trying to break in and get to our daughter. Okay, well he's not moving. He wants to. He broke our door in. Trying to get to our daughter. Our daughter's busted in. Okay, hold on. Did you shoot him? Yes. Okay. Call 911. We're on the phone with him right now. Okay, he's not moving.
He ain't going nowhere. I know, I heard 5 shots. Like,
No, 3 shots. He broke into our door coming in after my daughter. But my husband shot. He come barreling in right behind me and my daughter in the car.
oh, jeez.
Yeah, so we got in here and he wouldn't leave. He kept telling me to leave.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's fucking. I'm so sorry. Obviously, this is a best thing. Would you date her?
They dated a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
I think.
And he left her voicemail, left his last night. Oh my God.
Okay, just calm down. Calm down.
Officers discovered a home rigged with cameras.
What we saw was some of the most shocking footage that I've ever seen in my entire law enforcement career.
Saw this camera right above your head. I see a couple of them right in front of me as well here.
To go into a house where the residents have cameras in all of the rooms, like the bathrooms, was very abnormal.
An argument about alleged flirting online had been escalated by Keith.
Get me out of here. Or you ain't waking up.